What's up, guys? It's Dave Mann, and I'm outside the House floor right now in Congress. And as you can see, the doors are locked. We are out of session right now. We've been out of session. Congress has been shut down for the last 3 weeks. Mike Johnson, the Speaker, has made the decision to close down the House in the midst of this end of the budget, the government shutdown, and this is just unacceptable. Right now, people are more and more suffering because of the government shutdown. We've seen air traffic controllers and TSA folks not getting paid. Military personnel are about to miss their first paycheck. We've heard reports from constituents of Social Security checks getting delayed, of not being able to get people on the phone. And this is all just going to get worse and worse and worse as the shutdown extends. Republicans are trying to make the opening of the government contingent on another 15 million people losing their health insurance. Now, they've already gone after people's health care with the $1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid, the proposed $500 billion in cuts to Medicare. Now they're going after the tax credits that allow another 15 million Americans, including 30,000 I represent, to access affordable health insurance. People are going to die. And what Republicans are demanding right now is just simply unacceptable. Open up the government, reopen it, open up the House, Mike Johnson, and stop playing political partisan blame gaming here. This is just unacceptable, ridiculous. Let's reopen the House.
I ask our senators, Senator Peters and Slotkin, when are you going to put the American people first? The people that elected you to represent them. How many times will you vote against our troops? I ask Senator Peters and Senator Slotkin, how many times are you going to vote not to pay our troops? How many times will you vote against moms and babies who rely on WIC? Against flood insurance? How many times will you vote to put illegals first and Americans last?
This is clearly a political shutdown. This is not over policy. The Democrats have tried to make it over policy, particularly the expanding the Obamacare enhanced subsidies that will expire at the end of the year. But look, these are policies that the Democrats put in place. These are things in which the Democrats set when these expiration dates would occur. These were supposed to be temporary in light of COVID. Now we see that they want to make these permanent. The cost of that would be over $500 billion. And so the Democrats are asking for $500 billion in new funding to keep the government open for a mere 7 weeks. You're right. Much of the healthcare, or some of the healthcare that they're talking about, would go to illegal aliens. And so this is not a shutdown where they have a key issue that they really disagree with. They're just throwing a bunch of things at the wall, hoping that they can make something stick.
And every time the White House gets caught in being questioned about whether or not it's fair to take it out on American citizens and whether threatening Americans with cutting services, as the president has done, they just laugh it on and say, well, the president just likes to joke. This is not a joking matter. We need to be deadly serious about this.
This is about keeping the government open because, again, 13 times in the past, we all set partisanship aside. We all, in a bipartisan way, said it's important that we move this forward. There was a time in the 90s when Republicans thought it was a good idea to use government shutdowns, and they got burned. They know now, and they've known for 25 or 30 years, not a good idea to do that. So, it's very disappointing to see the Democrats do this, and then to have the media sort of complicit in trying to say, oh, it's about health insurance, it's all this. We can talk about enhanced premium health care, health tax credits. We can talk about all of those things, but not with the threat of this government shutdown. Open the government and let us have those discussions.
Liberty and justice for all. Mr. Speaker!
Pursuant to Clause 13 of Rule 1, the House stands adjourned until 12:30 p.m. on Friday, October 10, 2025.
They would rather give
Indivisible, with liberty.
Republicans will hold the line, and Republicans will stand behind the president. I believe we have the leverage, and here's why. I think Newt Gingrich said it very well, actually, when he said, look, Democrats have picked a fight on two things the American people don't like. The American people generally don't like a shutdown. Fair enough, right? You've got to deal with troop pay that expires, and it's destabilizing. And the American people also don't like profligate increased government spending. So Democrats have picked a shutdown fight to spend more money, both to give money to illegal aliens for health care, but importantly, and I'm saying this more than some of my colleagues are, because they're afraid to talk about health care, and I'm not, they're doing it to expand the COVID era subsidies under Obamacare. They're taking that massive expansion, they want to extend it, and all that money goes into the pockets of insurance companies. So basically, they want to enrich insurance companies and fund illegal aliens' health care, and they're shutting down the government to accomplish those objectives. I don't see that as having the upper hand, so long as Republicans hold the line. What I worry is that Republicans will claim victory on stopping illegal aliens from getting health care, which, by the way, we got a lot of those victories in the big, beautiful bill, working together with the president and his great team to do it. But I worry that some of our more moderate members will say, well, we'll stop that, which, by the way, was never going to happen. We were never going to, give into the Democrats' demands to give health care to illegal aliens. But instead, that they'll then try to cut a deal and say, well, but these subsidies are important, so let's have more subsidies. No Republican has ever voted for one of these subsidies, and we shouldn't now. They're driving up the cost of health care, empowering insurance companies, empowering mega hospital corporations at the expense of doctors and patients. And that is why you can't afford health care. That's why the average family of four spends $25,000 a year on insurance to get a massive deductible and a massive copay, to have to call some person in either Topeka or India to beg to find out which doctor they can actually use in a network, and have to drive an hour to go see this doctor that they didn't have a choice in choosing. That's what Obamacare has given us. We have the upper hand. We should hold the line. No more subsidies, no more illegals getting pay. Democrats shut down the government. It's their choice. Let them explain to soldiers when their paycheck doesn't come in on October 15th that they're not getting paid because they want illegals to have health care or they want insurance companies to get rich. I don't think they can win that if we hold the line.
The longest time the House
has been out of the Senate. Do you want me to answer the question? If you ask
because you're not actually answering the question. Let's be clear. The reason Alita Grahava is not here is because Mike Johnson wants to do two things. Number one, cover up for pedophiles on the Epstein list. And number two, put his members in a really rough position when it comes to voting and extending these ACA tax credits.
Oversight
you just
Committee.
keep coming up with excuses. This is an excuse, so she doesn't sign on to that.
This is absurd.
This is the longest time the House has been out of the Senate.
Do you want me to answer the question? If you ask the
because
question,
you're not actually answering the question. This entirely has to do with the Epstein list.
You see, this is a publicity stunt.
So then
and I was in the room with all of them.
Why are you blocking her then?
I'm not blocking her. I just
This
told
is
you.
the longest time that the House of Representatives has been out of session. That's not in a regular August session. This is the longest time it's taken for someone to be sworn in. And it all happens to coincide with the fact that she's going to be the deciding vote on the discharge petition.
I know why you're upset.
Hey, it's Nicole Malliotakis. I'm here at the Capitol calling on Senator Schumer and his fellow Democrats to pass the clean extension of government funding that they negotiated and that they voted for 4 times before. Remember, guys, you need 60 votes in the Senate. Republicans hold 53 seats. You need 7 Democrats to do the big thing here and actually put the American people first. They voted for this bill. It was negotiated by Chuck Schumer last year. They voted for it and they extended it 3 times. And now they're playing politics. Only 2 things have changed. One, President Trump is now there and we know how they feel about him. They want to give him a hard time at the expense of the American people. And number 2, AOC has threatened to primary Chuck Schumer. That's the only thing that changed. The bill text, the funding levels, it's all the same. So call Senator Schumer if you're one of the 65% of Americans who believe that Democrats should just pass the clean extension of existing funding levels. Call Senator Schumer, and if you're in New York, call Kirsten Gillibrand too. Tell them to stop putting politics above people.
Thank you, gentlemen. I've been on this committee for almost 11 years now, and we've had a number of general counsel nominees come in front of it, and the questions often turn into very grave, somber concerns that the nominee will have the courage to stand up and say no when his bosses want to violate the law. I think this approach is wrong-headed on a couple of counts. First, it goes without saying that any lawyer should tell their clients if they're prepared to take an action that is against the law. But the first count is that, in my experience on 11 years, the much more likely scenario in which the Office of General Counsel faces pressure is to distort their legal judgment to provide a shield to decision makers who don't want to make tough decisions. So rather than having a chief of station or a high-ranking director of operations officer, or even the CIA director, come to you and press you to bless something that would be illegal, more likely to try to get your office to say, no, something is out of bounds, when in fact it is in bounds, and that's just a decision that those decision makers care not to make. So you said in your opening statement, Mr. Simmons, that you would get clear advice and counsel any decision maker when something is against the law. I assume the opposite is true as well. If you are pressed to say something is against the law, when in reality it's perfectly legal, will you give that clear opinion that in your legal judgment, the action is legal and it's something the decision maker is going to have to decide for himself?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I think Director Radcliffe said it well when he was here, that he would follow the law as far as it goes and no further. And one of the key distinctions here is between law and policy. And I think if confirmed as General Counsel, my obligation would be to provide legal advice. What are the legal authorizations and limits? And then that equips the policymakers to make the important decisions they need to make for our national security.
And those are decisions that they make as the policymakers that a general counsel does not make as the legal advisor.
In just a few weeks, millions of Americans will start the process of picking new health insurance plans. And I believe a number of them are going to see the cost of their health insurance double. This is, unfortunately, it's not a mistake. It is the price of Washington failing them. And it's not just a number on a bill. It's the first sign for these families that their lives are going to be much harder. We are now 8 days into a government shutdown. But make no mistake, this debate isn't about something happening here in this building. It's about the price Americans pay for their health care. Because if we don't work together to extend the Affordable Care Act's premium tax credits, millions of families will see their health insurance costs skyrocket overnight. We can vote today to extend these tax credits and reopen the government. But so far, Donald Trump and my Republican colleagues would rather use people's health care as leverage than sit down and work with us to protect it.
Hey everybody, it's Jamie Raskin. It's Banned Books Week, and we are fighting to protect the right to read and the right to write and the right to think in America. And I have a resolution deploring and opposing all of the MAGA book bans all over America and even abroad as they try to remove hundreds of books from the school libraries for the children of military service members abroad. So we're standing up for everybody's right to read. Please read one of the banned books. I've got one right here, George Orwell's 1984. Notice how they always come after the books that are about censorship, that are about fascism, that are about authoritarianism, that are about taking people's freedoms away. So here's a little passage for you. Down in the street, the wind flapped the torn poster to and fro, and the word Ingsoc fitfully appeared and vanished. Ingsoc, the sacred principles of Ingsoc, newspeak, doublethink, the mutability of the past. He felt as though he were wandering in the forests of the sea bottom, but in a monstrous world where he himself was the monster. He was alone. The past was dead. The future was unimaginable. What certainty had he that a single human creature now living was on his side? And what way of knowing that the dominion of the party would not endure forever? Like an answer, the three slogans on the white face of the Ministry of Truth came back at him. War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is strength. That's George Orwell's 1984. Check it out, along with all the other banned books out there for Banned Books Week. And let's stand up for the First Amendment and the right to read in America. Hang tough, everybody.
Chuck Schumer chose to shut this down because he is scared to death of the leftist progressive side of the Democrat Party. That is who runs the Democrat Party at this point. I just think that there's a bunch of Democrats out there are like, this is crazy what we're doing, but they're scared to say it because what will happen to them is they will be primaried. And we've seen this time after time now over the last few years.
Every day this goes on, it increases pressure on the Republicans because everybody knows that they control all levers of government right now. They own this shutdown. It's a really easy solution. And I want to just explain something really important. When we talk about these tax credits and my colleagues say, oh, we can just wait till the end of the year. No, that is not true. Let me explain really quickly how this works. People, open enrollment is coming on November 1st. Our signing up, for me, ends on about November 15th. Statements are going to show up and families are going to evaluate their new premiums, which on average are going up by 65%, but in some cases are going up 100% or more. So they're going to look at those statements and decide whether they can afford to stay insured. And if they decide not to stay insured, and that open enrollment period ends, and then the Republicans decide to bring down costs, it's too late for them. They can't enroll again for another year. That is why this is so urgent. It's why our insurance commissioner wanted this dealt with by September 30th. And it is why we are fighting right now. Not to take a handshake of course we'll deal with that. They have proven to be untrustworthy, and we need to protect healthcare now.
So I'm back in DC. It's so weird. Everything is so quiet. The Republicans have shut down the government and shut down the House of Representatives, all while millions of Americans are starting to get their notices from their healthcare companies, letting them know about crazy expensive premium increases, jacking up the cost of their healthcare coverage. We are trying desperately to get Republicans to come back to the negotiating table to save your healthcare.
I'm not sure if you've heard, but the Democrat ransom note started at $1.5 trillion. Again, $1.5 trillion is their ransom note in order to keep the government open. They think that somehow spending more money in Washington, D.C. is the answer. We disagree. And now on top of it, they've asked for another $350 billion in ransom in order to keep the Obamacare subsidies that have been a failure to this point in place. We want to simply keep the government open and find new ways to reduce the cost of government, reduce the cost of healthcare, as opposed to just subsidizing more and more government or subsidizing a failed system known as Obamacare.
Hi, everyone. I'm here at the Capitol, and I got to tell you, listening to what Speaker Johnson said today, he said that the House has done its job. Look, we are in the middle of a senseless shutdown. It is a stunning dereliction of duty, an unacceptable dereliction of duty that the Speaker would suggest that the job is done. But I want you to know that I am here. I'm using every tool I've got to try to reopen the government, to protect your health care, to lower your costs. I'm coming back from a really impactful set of conversations in New Hampshire with people on the front lines of the work to deliver affordable, accessible health care to communities across New Hampshire. And I'm hearing from hardworking people from across our state who have never seen higher healthcare costs. I'm working to lower those costs and to deliver for New Hampshire.
I'm Hank Kramer. I'm a retired U.S. Army soldier from Winthrop, Washington, and I depend to a great extent on the veterans' benefits that I've earned through my service. With the current situation of the government shutdown, I'm concerned about what benefits are available during the shutdown, and I've done some research. On a positive note, VA hospitals and clinics are open to provide essential medical services to those who have earned them and are qualified for them. Unfortunately, the regional VA centers are closed and the telephone lines are not staffed. So veterans who are applying for new benefits or making adjustments in their current benefits cannot be heard. They cannot speak to the VA. They cannot apply for home loans. They cannot apply or update their applications for disability veterans, etc. I'm very concerned about this. I'm also concerned that with however long the shutdown continues, the backlog of these requests from veterans will build up and processing will be much slower when government reopens. America's veterans deserve to be treated better than this. I'm glad to say that Dan Newhouse, who is both my friend and my congressman, has voted consistently to pass the budget and open the government back up for business. That is how our veterans should be treated. I will stay hopeful that this problem is resolved soon on behalf of those who fought for America.
I was told by a group in Madison Friday night that their group health insurance just got increased 41% for next year. A couple 60 years old making $85,000 in my district could see somewhere between a $16,000 and $17,000 increase next year in their premiums. We saw that what they did is going to increase everybody's rates because as fewer people have health insurance, it's not like that means they're not getting sick. They're still going to get care. It has to be paid for, and that's going to get passed on to all of us. We're going to make sure that we're making people understand what the shutdown's about.
Hi, this is Congresswoman Nellie Poe, and I am here today at the Teterboro Airport, and I have the pleasure of being able to speak with April, who's one of the air traffic controllers. And April, I'd like to ask you, how are you doing? How are things? I understand that this must be a very difficult time for everyone. I just want to make sure that we're doing everything we can. This government shutdown is really impacting and affecting so many lives. So tell us, how are you doing?
Overall, we're okay. Our morale in this particular facility is pretty good, but it is something that we think about, but we don't have the luxury to stress too much because we have to be professional. We have to make sure that we put that on the back burner to keep the planes in the air and keep everyone safe. And then once we're off shift, we think about it, but I know personally it's hard. I'm thinking about how I'm going to pay my bills, how I'm going to pay my sitter, working overtime, and still the fear of not getting paid, the worry if my pay is actually going to be correct once we do start getting paid again. So it's a little stressful, but overall, we're professionals. We keep it going. We keep it strong.
Thank you. Thank you.
They're claiming that Republicans are hurting healthcare. You should go read Chuck Schumer's counter-proposal for the CR. We have a clean CR, they have a dirty CR, okay? And one of the reasons it's so dirty is because they wanted to cut $50 billion from the rural hospital fund that we all work so hard to put into the American taxpayers' tax cut.
At the very least, Mr. Speaker, don't continue to put at risk the lives of Americans who are flying day in and day out. The failure of the Speaker to act while this is going on is just as bad as the shutdown that we've seen. And to Mr. Vogt, who continues to want to intimidate men and women who are federal employees as if he is Al Capone, your day is coming, sir. You will be held accountable one day for these decisions. And that's why, so desperately, the other side will do everything they can to prevent the House from flipping from Republican to Democratic, because they know they will be held in account. And so I'm proud to be with all of the persons here. I'm proud to see that there's so many air traffic controllers and TSA agents and others who are working at this airport. I'm proud of our director's effort to not let this slow her down. And I'm proud of Americans all over this country who are concerned about health care and who are concerned about their country and who believe at the end of the day, we can do more. We can do more. So when historians look back through the telescope of time and they look at this era in our nation's history, let it be said of us, those who are proud Democrats who have stood up and will continue to stand up, that we will not waver, that we will not flinch, that we will not bend, and we will not break in terms of fighting for what's right for the American people.
Premiums are going to go up for everyone, all of us, and about 4 million Americans are going to lose their health care altogether. In Ohio, that's 500,000 Ohioans who will see their health care premiums skyrocket. About 130,000 Ohioans will lose their health care altogether. In my district, or our district, because David and I live in the same district in Southwest Ohio, it's 32,000 who are getting letters now saying your premiums are going to skyrocket next year because you don't have these tax credits anymore to lower the cost, because the tax credits actually go to the health insurance companies, and that now they're like, well, we're not getting this, so we're going to raise everyone's premiums. And for about 14,000 people in our district, David, they're going to lose their health care altogether
because they can't afford it.
They can't afford it. They can't afford it. Right. So in every district, you're talking about 15,000 people who are going to lose their insurance. Let's say 30 or 40,000 people who will see their insurance skyrocket.
They would rather give taxpayer-funded benefits to illegal aliens.
That's just not true. Fact. Undocumented immigrants can't get federal health care programs, no comprehensive Medicaid, no ACA subsidies. Here's another fact. Republicans are trying to take health care away from 15 million Americans and raise health care premiums for millions more. Healthcare costs are rising because Republicans want to give tax breaks to their billionaire friends, not because of immigrants. Stop the lies. Protect healthcare for all Americans.
Hey, Suhas Subramanyam here from Virginia, and Melanie Stansberry here from New Mexico. We're both members of Congress, but we also were feds in the Obama White House, right? And I was at OSTP, and I worked in the Science and Tech office. And Maria?
I was at OMB in the budget office.
And so you know better than anyone that during a shutdown, federal workers who are furloughed will get their back pay when the shutdown's over, despite this administration trying to take that away.
Absolutely. First of all, the federal government cannot take away your back pay. And second of all, Congress passed a law in 2019 after the last major shutdown that Trump put into place to guarantee that you would get back pay. So don't buy what you're hearing out of the West Wing.
And federal workers can't get fired either during a shutdown, right?
No, they do not have the authority to fire federal workers. In fact, if you receive a RIF notice, we want you as a federal worker to know that you are protected. In fact, the unions have already filed a federal lawsuit to make sure that your rights are protected. So no, they cannot fire you.
What should we do instead? End the shutdown.
For families who are raising children with serious or chronic conditions, healthcare coverage isn't optional. It's right. Not just a nice to have. It is a difference between life and death, and the difference between a child growing up with a fighting chance and a child going without the treatment that they need to survive. And Medicaid, the Children's Health Insurance Program, those are lifelines for families. They cover the pediatric specialists, the hospital stays, the feeding tubes, the therapies, the seizure medications, all of the things that no parent could ever plan for, but that every parent would do anything to provide if their child's life depended on it. And when Trump and Republicans gut Medicaid by $1 trillion, they're not trimming around the edges. They're ripping away that lifeline. There's also millions of children who rely on routine care, right? Checkups, vaccines, school physicals, so that they can grow up healthy. And when families lose coverage, those basic services become luxuries, right? Kids miss their immunizations. Ear infections, go untreated. Asthma gets worse. I mean, small problems become big ones. And those big problems end up costing families more. They cost hospitals more. And ultimately, the way our healthcare system is designed, it costs all of us more.